A man who makes people disappear was sitting in a hospital room watching a video on a child's phone. His hands would not stop shaking. The footage showed a woman being cornered inside his own house, slammed into a wall, threatened by a voice he trusted more than anyone alive. His own blood, his own family. And the two people who recorded it? His 6-year-old twin daughters. He had fired that woman 3 days ago, dragged her out of his home with a suitcase and a warning, threw her away like she was nothing. Now, those same little girls were lying in hospital beds, IV drips in their tiny arms, monitors beeping beside their heads, doctors saying words like dehydration, trauma response, self-induced starvation. They had stopped eating, stopped speaking, stopped sleeping, all to make their father watch what he refused to see. The most powerful man in Los Angeles had just been outplayed, not by a rival, not by the feds, not by any enemy he had ever faced, by 2 children and a nanny he destroyed. And the worst part? The video was still playing, and what came next would shatter everything he thought he knew about the people closest to him. If you're not subscribed, you're about to miss the moment everything falls apart. Subscribe now, because this story only gets darker. The house sat high above the hills of Los Angeles like it owned everything below it. Glass walls, iron gates, security cameras on every corner, armed guards rotating in silence. Jalen Brooks stood at the front entrance with her bag over one shoulder and a tight feeling in her chest. 26, from Oakland, raised by a mother who worked double shifts and a father she buried at 14. She was not soft, but she was tired. This job paid more in 1 month than her last 3 combined. It did not mention the residence belonged to Chairman Se Jun-yuk. To the public, a quiet Korean-American shipping magnate. To law enforcement, untouchable. To the streets, a man whose name people only spoke when they wanted trouble to find them. Jalen did not know any of that yet. She only knew the house smelled like expensive cologne and control. The house manager met her at the door, spoke fast, smiled tight. You do not enter the east hallway past the storage wing. You do not speak to security unless spoken to. You do not answer the house phone, ever. The children? Something crossed the woman's face. Not sadness, not fear, something between. Arya and Sol, 6 years old, twins. And the last nanny? Her jaw tightened. She moved on. That is all you need to know. Jalen carried her bag up 3 flights of marble stairs. No family photos on the walls, no toys on the floor, no children laughing. Their room sat at the end of the hallway, door cracked open. 2 girls on the edge of a bed, matching pajamas, braids falling apart because nobody had touched them in weeks. Arya grabbed Jalen's hand the moment she sat down, gripped tight, would not let go, like she was testing whether this one was real. Sol did not touch her at all. She just watched, studied Jalen's face the way someone memorizes a photograph, quickly, carefully, in case it disappears. Jalen tucked them in that night, smoothed the covers, hummed a song her mother used to sing when the world felt too big. As she stepped into the hallway, she noticed something. A door she had not seen before. Heavy, dark wood, lock on the outside, not the inside. No security camera above it. Every other hallway in the house had one. A guard appeared, looked at her, then at the door, then back. That area is not yours. Jalen turned away. Did not ask, but she stored it, the part of her brain that knew when something was wrong before anyone said a word. She pulled the twins' door closed. Then Sol's voice came through the crack, barely a breath. The last lady who was nice to us, Daddy sent her away too. Jalen's hand froze on the doorknob. She walked to her room, sat on the edge of her bed until 3 a.m. 2 little girls, a locked door, and a house where kindness felt dangerous. She could leave. Bus to Oakland ran at 6 every morning. But she kept thinking about Arya's grip, Sol memorizing her face like evidence. She was staying. Not for the money, not for the man who owned this place. For them. Because sometimes courage is not about being fearless. Sometimes it's choosing to stay when leaving would be easier. Weeks passed, and Jalen changed that house without touching a single wall. She braided the twins' hair every morning, double cornrows with beads Sol picked out herself, green and gold, always green and gold. She read them bedtime stories, but changed the endings so the princess saved herself. Sat outside their door when nightmares came, humming until the crying stopped. Small things, ordinary things. But in a house built on fear, ordinary kindness was a revolution. Aria laughed for the first time in months, a real laugh, the kind that made her whole body shake and her eyes squeeze shut. The sound bounced off the marble walls like it didn't belong there, because it didn't. Sol started reaching for Jalen's hand during walks in the garden, never asked, just reached, and Jalen always held on. Chairman Say noticed. Never said a word, never came into the room, but his staff saw him lingering near security monitors. His eyes tracked the braiding, the songs, the laughter. He watched the way a man watches something he doesn't understand, but is afraid to interrupt. Then his cousin arrived. Same Young Ho, older by 4 years, the man who helped Chairman Say build everything, the shipping routes, the connections, the silence that kept it all running. Corner office on the 2nd floor. A smile that never reached his eyes. He found Jalen in the kitchen one afternoon, leaned against the counter like he owned the space. "The new girl," he said. "Friendly, easy. How are the twins treating you?" "They're good kids," Jalen said. "They talk to you a lot, huh? What kind of things do they say?" Jalen kept her voice steady. "Kid stuff, braids, bedtime stories, nothing interesting." Myung-ho smiled. "Smart girl." He walked out, but his eyes had already done what his mouth didn't. They measured her, calculated her, decided something about her that she wasn't allowed to know yet. That evening, Jalen passed Chairman Say's study. The door was cracked. 2 voices inside, Say and Myung-ho. The tone was wrong. Tight, controlled. Myung-ho used the word hyung, a Korean word meaning older brother, but it landed like an accusation. Something about a shipment that didn't arrive at Long Beach, numbers that didn't match, a name Jalen had never heard. Jalen kept walking, did not slow down, did not look, but she heard enough to know that whatever lived inside this house was bigger than nannies and bedtime stories. That night, Jalen checked on the twins before bed. Aria was already asleep. Sol was sitting up drawing in a notebook. Jalen sat beside her and gently reached for Aria's arm to pull the cover higher. Her fingers brushed something that made her stomach drop. A bruise, small, finger-shaped, half hidden under the pajama sleeve.
Jalen looked at Sol. Sol looked at the bruise, then at Jalen. Neither of them spoke. When Jalen touched Arya's arm again, Arya flinched in her sleep and pulled away. A small voice came from beside her. Sol. Quiet. Careful. "It was an accident. Don't tell Daddy." Something dark is hiding inside this house, and Jalen just found the first mark. If you're watching and haven't subscribed, do it now, because what she discovers next changes everything. Don't tell Daddy. Those 3 words stayed with Jalen for days. She watched the twins closer after that, asked gentle questions during meals, during baths, during the quiet moments when children forget to guard themselves. Arya shut down, went stiff whenever Jalen reached for her arm. Sol gave small answers that raised bigger questions. Sometimes people get mad when Daddy leaves. Jalen could not tell who was hurting them, could not tell how often, could not tell if it was one person or the whole house. But then the bruises stopped showing up on the twins. They started showing up on her. A shove in the kitchen, a guard's shoulder slamming into hers in the hallway. No apology, no eye contact, just force. A grip on her wrist when she tried entering the laundry room after dark, hard enough to leave marks. She told herself it was coincidence, clumsiness, bad timing, but the pattern did not stop. Purple marks on her ribs from a door that swung too hard, a swollen jaw she covered with foundation every morning, a limp she disguised by walking slow. The twins saw everything. Children always do. One afternoon, Jalen was carrying towels past the storage wing near that locked door from her first night. A man she did not recognize stepped into her path, one of Myung-ho's people. Tall, calm, hands in his pockets like this was casual. He did not touch her. He stood close enough that she could smell cigarettes and aftershave, and he spoke low. "You're temporary. Don't forget that." He walked away. Jalen's hands shook so hard she dropped every towel she was holding. That night, Jalen sat on the edge of her bed and stared at the wall. Her ribs ached, her jaw was still tender, her wrist had turned yellow-green where the fingerprints were fading. She thought about leaving. Oakland was still there. Her mother's couch was still there. She could pack her bag and be gone before sunrise. Then, a knock came at her door. Sol, barefoot, holding a stuffed rabbit with one missing ear. She climbed into Jalen's lap without asking and pressed her face against her chest. "You're the only person he stays." 5 words, and they broke something open inside Jalen that she could not close again. She was staying. The next morning, Jalen pulled an old phone from her bag. Cracked screen, no SIM card, but the camera worked. She handed it to the twins during breakfast, kept her voice light. "Keep this hidden in your room. If anything happens and you need to call me, you use this, just in case." Arya nodded seriously. Sol took the phone and slid it under her mattress without being told to hide it. She already understood just in case better than any 6-year-old should. She just handed 2 little girls a lifeline disguised as an old phone, and those girls are going to use it in ways nobody saw coming. If you're watching this and still haven't subscribed, ask yourself why. Subscribe now. This story is about to turn. That afternoon, Jalen passed the storage hallway again. The locked door was cracked open. Voices inside, muffled, tight. She caught 3 words before a guard stepped into view and waved her away. "Before he finds out." She kept moving, heart pounding, face calm. That night, she checked under her pillow before bed, a habit from Oakland, from a childhood where safety was never a guarantee. Her fingers touched paper. A folded note, block letters, 3 words. Leave or bleed. Chairman So left for Seattle on a Tuesday morning, 3-day trip. His car rolled through the gate at 7 a.m. and the house exhaled. Not in relief, in preparation. The moment his taillights disappeared, the energy shifted. Guards started moving with purpose, staff lowered their eyes, and Myung-ho walked through the mansion like it already belonged to him. He took So's chair at the dining table, poured from So's bourbon, gave orders to men who were not his to command. Jalen felt it in her skin before she understood it in her mind. The air was heavier, the rules were different, and the man in charge now was the same man whose people had been leaving bruises on her body for weeks. She kept the twins close, read to them in their room, did not leave the 3rd floor unless she had to. But she had to. The twins' playroom sat near the storage wing, and that afternoon, while Arya colored and Sol practiced writing her name, Jalen heard voices through the wall. The locked door was open. Myung-ho. 2 men she'd never seen, speaking in mix of English and Korean. The half she caught was enough. Containers rerouted from Long Beach, money figures that made her head spin, and customs contact paid to look away. And then Myung-ho's voice, clear, confident, and final. "Junyuk doesn't need to know. The girls made him soft. He's not the same man who built this." One of the men asked a question Jalen could not fully hear, something about the nanny. Myung-ho's answer came through the wall like ice. "She won't be a problem." Jalen backed away from the wall, slowly, silently, her heart slamming so loud she was sure someone could hear it. The floor creaked. The voices stopped. The door opened. Myung-ho stood in the frame. His eyes found Jalen standing 6 feet away with a stack of coloring books in her hands. He looked at her. She looked at him. 3 seconds of silence that felt like 30. Then he smiled. "Lost again," Jalen said, her voice held. "Barely. Just grabbing supplies for the girls." "Good. Keep doing your job." He closed the door, and Jalen walked back to the playroom on legs that felt like water. She's inside a house with a man who just said she won't be a problem, and his boss is 1,000 miles away. If you're still not subscribed, drop a comment and tell me why, because what happens to Jalen next will keep you up tonight. After that, the squeeze began. Her meals stopped arriving. Her room key failed twice. Maintenance issue, they said. A guard stood outside her bedroom door at night, not doing anything, just standing. She could see his shadow under the gap. Sol asked Jalen why she wasn't eating dinner with them anymore. "I'm not hungry," Jalen said. Sol stared at her, the way children stare when they know an adult is lying but love them too much to say it. Wednesday night, Chairman So was supposed to return Thursday. Myung-ho gathered the staff in the kitchen and made an announcement. The chairman's trip had been extended 5 more days. Jalen's stomach dropped. 5 days. Alone in this house with a man who already decided she was a problem that needed solving, and no one on the outside who knew she was here. She looked at the twins through the glass partition. Sol sat on the playroom floor holding the old phone against her chest. 5 days was a long time, and Jalen had a feeling she was not going to make it through all of them. She made it 4 days, not 5. On the 4th night, headlights swept through the gate at 11 p.m. Chairman So came home a day early, unannounced. The house scrambled. Guards straightened. Staff rushed to position. Myung-ho was the first to meet him at the front door, calm, composed, a glass already poured. You heard the footsteps from her room, heavy, fast. Chairman So walked straight to the 3rd floor, opened the twins' bedroom door, stood there watching them sleep for a full minute, then closed it gently. His footsteps passed Jalen's room next. She held her breath. He kept walking. She exhaled. He was back. Maybe it would be okay now. It was not okay. Within an hour, 2 guards appeared at Jalen's door. They did not knock. They opened it. One grabbed her arm and pulled her down the hallway, barefoot, still in her sleep clothes. She tried to plant her feet. The grip tightened until she stopped resisting. They brought her into the main living room. Chairman So sat in a leather chair, face like stone. Myung-ho stood behind Jalen with his hands in his pockets, relaxed, the way a man stands when everything is going exactly the way he planned. Jalen was bleeding, a cut on her forehead from where the guard slammed her into the hallway wall. Her lip was swollen from something that happened in the 30 seconds between her door and this room.
Myung-ho spoke first, calm, factual, like a man presenting evidence, not manufacturing it. She has been accessing restricted areas, asking staff about operations. Inventory from the storage room is missing. Every word was a lie, and Jalen could see from Chairman Seo's face that he believed every one of them. He looked at her. His voice was empty, not angry, which was worse. "Did you take it?" Jalen opened her mouth. "I don't even know what you—" A hard slap cracked across her face. Not from Seo, from Myung-ho. Open hand, full force. The sound bounced off the glass walls and hung in the air like a gunshot. And the twins were watching. The noise had woken them. They stood in the hallway behind the glass partition. Arya was screaming Jalen's name. Sol was silent, completely silent, the dangerous kind. Chairman Seo did not stop it, did not ask Jalen for her side, did not look at his daughters. "Get her out, now. If she comes back, handle it." Guards grabbed Jalen's arms. A suitcase was thrown behind her. The twins broke free from a staff member and ran to her, grabbing her legs, sobbing into her knees. Guards pulled them away. She lost everything protecting 2 children who are not hers, and he did not even ask what happened. If you're watching and you haven't subscribed, what is stopping you? Subscribe, because what those little girls do next will shake you. Jalen did not beg, did not scream, did not collapse. She dropped to her knees on the marble floor, took both girls' faces in her hands, looked into their eyes, Arya's flooding with tears, Sol's burning with something harder than tears, and she said the only thing that mattered. "Remember what I taught you. Be brave when it's hard, not when it's easy." She kissed their foreheads, stood up, and walked out the front door with nothing but a suitcase and a split lip. The gate closed behind her. Inside the house, the guards carried the twins back to their room. Arya was still crying. Sol was not. Sol waited until the door closed, until the footsteps faded, until the hallway went quiet. Then she reached under her mattress, pulled out the old cracked phone. The screen glowed in the dark. The recording app was still open. It had been running for 3 hours. The house went quiet after Jalen left. Not peaceful quiet, the kind that presses against your chest and makes you check corners. The twins stopped talking. Not slowly, not in stages. The morning after Jalen was thrown out, Arya and Sol sat at the breakfast table and said nothing. Staff placed food in front of them. Pancakes, fruit, orange juice, their favorite. They did not touch it. A maid tried coaxing Arya. Arya stared through her like she was made of glass. Sol folded her arms and looked at the wall. Dinner came. Same thing. Plates untouched. Dinner untouched. Chairman Seo came to their room that night, sat on the edge of Sol's bed. His voice was soft, the kind of soft that costs a powerful man everything to produce. "Talk to me." Nothing. "Are you angry?" Nothing. "I'll get you a new nanny, someone better." Sol turned her back to him. Arya pulled the blanket over her head. He sat there for 40 minutes, then left. The next morning, staff reported the twins had not slept. Security cameras showed them sitting upright in their beds, eyes open, hands in their laps, from midnight until 5 a.m. Not crying, not fidgeting, just sitting, like two small statues made of grief. Seo sent the house doctor. Arya went limp in the chair, dead weight, eyes open, breathing but unreachable. Sol pressed herself against the wall and would not let anyone within arm's length. The doctor chose his words carefully. This is not defiance. This is a trauma response. Seo called a child psychologist next. She lasted 12 minutes before Sol looked at her and said the only words either twin had spoken in 2 days. "Bring her back." Then silence again. By the second night, the house felt like a morgue. Staff walked on eggshells. The chef prepared 7 different meals. All 7 came back cold. Chairman Seo, the man who negotiated with federal agents, who sat across from cartel leaders without blinking, who controlled ports and politics and people, stood outside his daughter's bedroom door at 2 a.m. and could not make 2 small girls look at him. He passed Myung-ho in the hallway. Myung-ho leaned against the wall, scrolling his phone. "Kids forget. Give it a week." Seo stopped walking, looked at his cousin. Something shifted behind his eyes. Not anger yet, but the thing right before it. "Don't talk about my daughters again." It was the first time he had ever shut Myung-ho down, and Myung-ho felt it. His smile dropped, just for a second. 2 little girls brought the most dangerous man in the city to his knees without saying a single word. If this story has you right now, subscribe, because you are not ready for what those twins show him next. Day 3, a Tuesday. The school called at 10:47 a.m. Both twins had collapsed during morning assembly. Arya first, then Sol, reaching for her sister as her legs gave out. Paramedics arrived in 4 minutes. Chairman Seo arrived in 6. Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, pediatric wing. 2 beds side by side. IV drips in small arms. Monitors beeping, too slow for children their age. The diagnosis came fast. Dehydration, malnutrition onset, acute stress response. Self-induced starvation across 72 hours. The doctor did not soften it. Your daughters chose to stop eating, chose to stop sleeping. Their bodies shut down because their minds already had. So sat between their beds, hands on his knees, head bowed. The most powerful man in Los Angeles, and his 6-year-old daughters had broken him without lifting a finger. Because they learned something from the woman he threw away. Silence is not weakness.
Sometimes silence is the loudest weapon in the room. The hospital room smelled like antiseptic and failure. Chairman So sat between his daughter's beds. Arya was asleep. The IV had calmed her body before her mind followed. Sol was awake, eyes on the ceiling. So had not moved in 3 hours, had not taken a call. His phone buzzed 14 times. He let it ring. The man who ran half the shipping lanes on the West Coast sat in a plastic chair under fluorescent lights and waited for a 6-year-old to look at him. At 2:17 a.m., Sol turned her head. She did not speak right away. She studied his face the way she studied everything, careful, measuring, deciding whether to trust what she saw. Then she reached under her hospital blanket and pulled out the cracked phone. So stared at it. His jaw tightened. He did not recognize the device. It was old, scratched, no case, the kind of phone you find at the bottom of a drawer. Sol's voice came out dry, barely a sound. She told us, if anything ever happened, show you. She pressed play. The first video was dark, shaky, filmed from a low angle, a child's height. Jalen in the storage hallway, pressed against the wall, one of Myung-ho's men standing over her, his hand on the wall beside her head, his voice low and flat. You're temporary. Don't forget that. Jalen's face filled the frame, scared, holding it together, alone. The second video was steadier. Sol had propped the phone behind a vase on the hallway shelf, Myung-ho on his phone outside the storage room door. His voice carried. Handle the problem before she talks. I don't care how, just make sure Jun Yuk never hears her side. So's hands gripped the armrests of the plastic chair. His knuckles turned white. The third video was the one that broke him. The living room, the night everything fell apart, filmed from behind the couch. The angle caught everything. Jalen on her knees, blood on her forehead, Myung-ho's hand connecting with her face, Arya's scream off camera, and So's own voice, cold and final. Get her out. He watched himself give that order, watched his own face show nothing while a woman bled on his floor. The fourth video was different. No violence, no shouting. Just Sol, sitting alone on her bed after the guards carried them back to their room. Eyes red, voice cracking but controlled, speaking directly into the camera like she was recording a message for someone who might never see it. A pause. Sol wiped her nose with the back of her hand. We tried to be brave, like she said, but it's hard when you're 6. The screen went black. He just watched his own daughters beg him to believe the truth he was too blind to see. Was his cousin's loyalty worth more than their safety? Tell me in the comments, because what he does next splits this story in half. The room was silent. The monitor beeped. Arya shifted in her sleep. So set the phone down on the table between the beds. His hand was trembling, not shaking from rage, trembling the way a man's hand trembles when everything he believed collapses at the same time. He leaned forward, kissed Arya's forehead, then Sol's. Sol watched him, did not pull away, did not smile. He stood up, straightened his jacket, walked out without a word. His driver was waiting in the hallway, so passed him, took the stairs, got into the car himself. 1 phone call, 4 words. Bring me the names. By sunrise, 2 of Myung-ho's men disappeared from the property. Their rooms cleared, their phones dead. No one asked questions. No one needed to. Myung-ho was still in the mansion. So was not done. Finding Jalen should have been easy for a man who could track shipments across 3 oceans. It was not. No phone, no address, no social media, no emergency contact on file, because the mansion never asked for one. She was hired to disappear into a house and care for 2 children, and when they were done with her, she disappeared for real. It took So's people 48 hours, not through technology, through a name on an emergency shelter intake list in Compton. He drove himself. No guards, no driver, just a black car parked on a street where a man like him did not belong. The shelter was a converted church. Peeling paint, barred windows, a woman at the front desk who looked at So's suit and watch and did not blink. She's in room 9, that if she doesn't want to see you, you leave. So nodded. He stood outside room 9 for a full minute. Through the thin door, he could hear her, not crying, breathing. The kind of breathing that comes after crying has already taken everything. He knocked once. The door opened. Jalen stood in the frame wearing borrowed clothes, a bandage still across the cut on her forehead, her lips still swollen, but healing. Her eyes were clear, hard, present. She looked at him the way you look at someone you already decided something about. You don't get to look sorry. He did not argue, told her what happened. The videos, the hospital, Myung-ho's men removed, the twins asking for her every hour. Jalen listened, arms folded, back straight, leaning against the doorframe of a shelter room, and somehow she was the one with all the power. When he finished, she spoke slow, measured, every word placed like a brick. You fired me because your cousin told you to. You didn't ask your daughters. You didn't ask me. You chose blood over truth. And now you're here because your children are sick, not because you believe me. So opened his mouth. That's exactly what it is. This is damage control, not love. Silence. A clock ticked somewhere in the building. Someone down the hall coughed. She's standing in a shelter, telling the most powerful man in LA that her apology means nothing. And she's right. If this story speaks to something inside you, subscribe now, because the terms she sets next will change everything. Jalen stepped closer. Her voice dropped, but did not soften. If I come back, the twins decide. Not you. If I come back, there are real consequences for what happened. Not promises, actions. And I come back as someone who matters in that house, not an employee you replace when she becomes a problem. Co stood still, taking it, the way a man stands when he knows he earned every word hitting him. Jalen was not finished. One more thing. She tilted her head, her eyes narrowed. Do you know what was in those containers? The question landed like a blade between them. Co's face did not change, but his silence did. It stretched 1 second too long, filled the space with something heavier than an answer ever could. He knew, or he suspected, and either way he had let it happen under the same roof where his daughters slept. Co read his silence like a page in a book. That's what I thought. She stepped back into the room, hand on the door. Call me when the twins are ready, not when you are. The door closed. Co stood in the hallway of a Compton shelter, staring at chipped paint and a closed door. The richest man in the room and the poorest in every way that mattered. He walked back to his car, sat behind the wheel, did not start the engine for 11 minutes. Then he drove home to deal with the man who built all of this, his own blood. Co walked into the mansion at 11 p.m. The house was dark except for the second-floor office, Myung-ho's light. Still on, still comfortable, still sitting in a building he thought belonged to him. Co climbed the stairs slowly, not rushing, the way a man walks when the decision is already made and nothing left can change it. He opened the office door without knocking. Myung-ho sat behind the desk, Co's desk, with a glass of bourbon and a laptop open. He looked up, smiled, the same smile he had worn for 20 years, warm on the surface, calculated underneath. "You're back late. How are the girls?" Co did not answer. He placed the cracked phone on the desk, screen up, pressed play. All 4 videos played. Jalen cornered, Myung-ho's own voice ordering someone to handle the problem, the slap, the sound bouncing off the office walls, and Seol's face, her cracking voice, "Please find her." Myung-ho watched without moving. His expression shifted once when his own voice came through the speaker, a tightening around the eyes, then gone. When the screen went black, he leaned back in the chair. Where did they get that phone? Not denial, not shock. His first instinct was to find out how he got caught. Co said nothing, waited. Myung-ho read the silence, changed his approach. Leaned forward, hands open on the desk like a man offering reason. "Everything I did was to protect this family. She was a liability, hearing things, getting close to the girls. You were distracted. Someone had to act." His voice carried real belief. That was the worst part. "The nanny made you soft. The girls made you soft. You built this with me. The routes, the contacts, the silence. I was protecting what we built." He paused. "You would have done the same thing 10 years ago." And that was the sentence that cut deepest, because part of it was true. The man Co used to be might have made the same call, might have chosen the operation over a woman he barely knew, might have trusted blood over everything else without asking a single question. But that man's daughters had not yet starved themselves into a hospital bed to prove him wrong. He chose blood over truth once. It cost him his daughter's health, a woman's safety, and the only honest thing left in his house. If you're not subscribed, you're about to miss how much this decision costs him. Subscribe now. Co picked up the phone from the desk, put it in his pocket. "You're done." Not a threat, a fact. He did not raise his voice, did not call guards, did not reach for anything violent, and Myung-ho knew what that meant. Violence would have been familiar. This was something else. Co stripped him clean. Access codes changed within the hour, accounts frozen by morning, authority over every route, contact, and man who answered to the family revoked. His name erased from shipping manifests, property deeds, and security clearance lists from Long Beach to Busan. Co walked into the mansion office doorway with a bag packed by staff who would not look at him. "You're choosing a nanny over your own blood?" Co looked at him one last time. "I'm choosing my daughters over the man who hurt someone they loved." By sunrise, half of Co's infrastructure had collapsed. Key men loyal to Myung-ho walked out. Long Beach operations froze. 3 shipping contacts went dark. The empire Co spent 15 years building cracked down the center overnight. Co sat in the empty office at 6 a.m. No bourbon, no phone calls, just silence, and the cost of doing the right thing 20 years too late. Then he picked up his phone, called Jalen. "The twins want to see you." A pause on the other end, long enough that he thought she had hung up. "I'll come, but not for you." 6 months later, the mansion looked different, not smaller, lighter. Fewer guards, fewer cameras. The locked storage door stood open. The room behind it was empty. Jalen sat in the driveway, hands on the steering wheel. The last time she left this house, she had a split lip and a suitcase. Now the gate was open. She stepped out. 3 steps toward the entrance. The front door flew open. Arya came first, full sprint across the driveway, barefoot, hair wild, arms wide. She crashed into Jalen's legs so hard they both almost fell, buried her face in Jalen's waist and sobbed. The loud, gasping, whole-body kind that a child holds for months and releases all at once. Seol came second, slower, jaw tight, fists clenched, trying to hold it together. She made it 4 steps before her face broke. She rammed the rest and wrapped both arms around Jalen's waist, gripping like the world would take her away again.
Jalen dropped to her knees on the driveway, pulled both girls against her chest. Her hands shook, tears ran down her face, and she did not wipe them, did not hide them. Arya pulled back just enough to look at her, eyes swollen, voice cracking. "We showed him, like you said. We were brave when it was hard." Jalen pressed her forehead against Arya's. "You were braver than anyone I have ever known." This woman was beaten, fired, and thrown out with nothing. She came back, not for money, not for him, but for two little girls who fought a war for her with silence and a cracked phone. If this story moved something inside you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you're still not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Subscribe now. Chairman So stood in the doorway. He did not come outside, did not insert himself into the moment. He watched from the threshold, close enough to see, far enough to know this was not his yet. When Jalen stood and looked at him, he did not speak. He showed her. Myung-ho, gone. Every man connected to him, gone. New staff vetted by an outside firm. A trust fund for both twins with Jalen listed as co-guardian. Legal documents, not promises. Paper. Jalen looked through the pages slowly, then set them on the hallway table. "I don't forgive you yet." So nodded. "But I believe you're trying, and for now, that's enough." Sol tugged Jalen's hand, led her to the bedroom, reached under the mattress and pulled out the cracked phone, the same phone Jalen had given her all those months ago. "Should I delete the videos?" Jalen looked at the phone, then at Sol, then at the open hallway behind them. No locked doors, no shadows, no guards standing where they should not be. "Keep them. Truth should never be easy to erase." Sol nodded once, slid the phone back under the mattress, like a soldier storing a weapon she hoped she would never need again. That evening, Jalen sat on the twins' bedroom floor, Arya asleep in her lap, Sol leaning against her shoulder. The house was quiet, the real kind this time. She was not an employee anymore, not a guest. She was something this mansion never held before, someone who stayed because the people who mattered most chose her. Not the man who owned the house, the children who made it worth saving. Power does not break when enemies take it. It breaks when the people you love stop believing you deserve it. Chairman So's daughters had almost stopped believing. Almost. And if this story stayed with you, if it made you feel something real, like, share, and subscribe for more stories that hit where it matters, because the next one might be even harder to walk away from.